Welcome to Wensleydale Railway. My name is Guy Loveridge, I'm the chairman of Wensleydale Railway plc. What we're aiming to do with these programmes on YouTube is to give you a flavour of the railway and of the people and what we're doing to come back out of lockdown and get back to operations. We're a 22 odd mile heritage railway running from Northallerton to Redmire via Scruton, Leeming Bar, Beedale, Leyburn and all places east and west. We hope over the next few months to give you a taste of what the Wensleydale Railway is like, so that if you know us, you can get to know us once more after the enforced COVID break. If you don't know us, you might fancy coming to meet us.
I'm Bob Coombs. I'm station manager for the building for RAT, so it's just the building, not the whole station. And I'm manager of the station house. And I'm assisted by Tim Gregson, who is the deputy station manager, but is also head of the station support group. So we've got a nice little group that work together on the station. I started here in 2012. 2012. I was made redundant end of 2011, and you've got to find things to do. And my wife was in a care home just down the road in Leeming. She had MS and she was on that way. And coming here seemed to be quite sensible, because I could combine volunteering here with going to see her. So that's why I ended up here. I'm not a great train buff or anything. I've got an interest in trains, but you know, I'm not one of these that rattle off, oh that's a 105 and what's it doing with that carriage because that's not right, sort of thing. I'm not that sort. I know bits about trains, and I like to impart my knowledge to people, as you may know. So I started off in the buffet, and then I went and did level crossings, but I also, with my background in quality assurance, complained to Richard Brown about the lack of procedures, which was a big mistake. I mean, I spent from 79 to 2011 working in it, starting out working in the laboratory, ending up being the technical support for the sales on the material, and I also for a short while was quality manager of the laboratory that was in, which was looking after coal and ash. And I also sat on a couple of British Standard committees, mainly to deal with aggregates, which is something that PFA gets involved with, and furnace bottom ash, which is the clinkery stuff rather than the powder. Well, trouble with me is I tend to be a procedures man, so what I write is tends to be very formal. But I'm a man of few words, so I'll never make a top author. But I've never thought about pursuing it in the railway world, but you know, I'm not knowledgeable enough, really. I want to ease back on what I was doing, because I was doing far too much before. But the interpretation side, I'd like to get more involved in that. One thing me and Tim are trying to get to do now is sort out the management of this place and get the procedures in place for that, the inductions and all that paraphernalia. Once that's up and running, it should be fairly straightforward, and once it's running well, maybe I'll step back from that, because I'm getting old, you know.
This is Scruton Station, the end of the line for the operational return to life after the COVID lockdown. Trains will be running from Beedale through Leeming Bar to Scruton. We're looking at hourly services, and you'll be able to meet and interact with volunteers from the Trust, from RAT, dressed up in period costumes and learn about the history of what life would have been like in the years gone by here at Scruton Station and along the line at our multi-award winning National Lottery funded Heritage Scruton Station.
I'm Chris Williams, I'm the General Manager. I was in the 1960s as a very young boy working as a volunteer on the Wensleydale Railway. Stayed there really until my job took me to pastures new, so I couldn't really continue with that. When I found time again, I became part of a restoration team on the Great Central Railway, restoring steam locos. Eventually got back onto the footplate there. Still am a qualified driver on the Great Central, also a local inspector down there. From there I moved as railway manager to the South Devon Railway, so that was the first time I'd ever also combined my hobby with my life, because it actually became my job at that point. And unfortunately I became a victim of the pandemic and was made redundant. Crikey, where do we start with that one? The pandemic hasn't been kind to the Wensleydale Railway because it did everything right. It shut the place down with no volunteers in, but that of course coincided with the major growing seasons for vegetation and that sort of thing. So the real main challenges, one of the real main challenges has been getting the permanent way and the infrastructure back up to a reasonable standard. And there's a lot of paperwork to sort out as a result of various other bits and pieces in the background. We're starting with a very relatively small section of line. We made the decision, very hard decision to make, to concentrate on one part of the railway rather than trying to do everything to everything. So we're concentrating our efforts on the length of railway between Bedale and Scruton. We think that's going to be quite attractive to people because Bedale can be a good joining point. Change trains at Leeming Bar or get off the train at Leeming Bar to look at the newly restored station buildings set in the 1920s, and then move on to Scruton, which is set in Victorian times. So it gives the visitor quite a different experience to just a ride on a train. The plan is to expand from that, and whilst we're in trains on that section, to bring the railway between Bedale and Labourn up to scratch. And then by the end of the year we'll be running Polar Express up to there, with a view to having trains back to Redmire in 2022. Interesting time. Yeah, it was you know, I was supposed to be studying for, I think, my O-levels at school, and it was far more interesting to go and take part in the filming of that. So it was quite entertaining.
And I understand you appear.
Oh, my hand does. For a split second, but yes, it's my hand. Or one of my hands.
Thing Hall, about halfway up the line from Bedale to Redmire, an underutilised asset, many would argue, but we do have plans which I'll tell you about in a moment. This is the waiting room at Thing Hall Station. It's in need of some love and attention, lick of paint, wash and a brush up. But the PLC plans are to turn this into a gallery, so that we'll be making regular stops when the whole line returns to use. And you'll find out in the next of these programmes what we're going to fill the gallery with and what the focus of attention here will be. Bedale Station. This is the start of the post-COVID offer. This station, down the line via Leeming Bar to Scruton. And I'll let you into a little secret for the PLC planning, which is going to happen just up there. This end, the Redmar end of Bedale Station platform, images of this platform and this station back in the day, you'll see the spur here, which led into the yard, sadly doesn't anymore, has always got a livestock wagon in it, for horses or for cattle or sheep. The plan that the PLC are working on at the moment is we're bringing in a 1950s rail car wagon, 30 foot 5 inches long, to sit here, and that will be the centre of our Collectors Corner Heritage Retail offer going forward from the summer. So watch this space, literally. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 coaches. Now Emma here behind me is awaiting restoration. She's in the queue to go into the sheds at Leeming Bar and be properly restored. The Caledonian Sleepers are part of the next stage plan for Leeming Bar Station, which we'll talk a little bit more about in the May edition.
I'm Ian. I work in and own Platform 1 tea rooms in Bedale, and we provide all sorts of food like afternoon teas, to cafe style food, to cakes, scones, biscuits, you name it, we make it, and we make everything here as well, using all local stuff. For a business like ours, it's so young. Starting in June 2019, and then the pandemic hit in March 20 was like 9 months. So a virgin business like that, the pandemic closing us and everything was absolutely devastating to start with. We didn't know where we were going. We didn't know whether we were even going to be able to reopen. But adaptation, making things work, doing home deliveries, feeding the communities and the vulnerable during the first lockdown kind of worked for us. Got us a bit of a reputation and a name, which tied in with the quality and everything that we get from here. And we kind of managed to ride out the next couple of shutdowns. The Eat Out to help out was absolutely phenomenal. We were packed on a daily basis. We just couldn't produce enough food and enough tables and seats for people. And in the last lockdown, we haven't been able to open the doors at all other than for home deliveries, but it's kept the business going, so to the point that we'll be celebrating our birthday soon. That's going to make a massive difference to us. Bedale's always been one of those stations that's sort of been in the middle of the line, so people generally want to go from point A to point B and don't really want to get off in the middle if they can help it. So it's always been a bit quiet on that side, but now I think with Bedale being the focus, that will really improve a lot of things, and there'll be an awful lot for people to actually see. I mean, Bedale's a great town anyway, for people to see and come and visit. There's always loads here with us and the station and the way the station is. I think it'll be absolutely great for people. Oh, absolutely. Just looking at the way social media's been recently, and the questions that we're getting about when we're reopening or when we're doing this, when we're doing that, what offers have we got, tying that in with stuff that we've already done, and then with the railway sort of coming in back into life as well. I think there's an awful lot of scope. I think Britain is going to be a hot potato for the next couple of years anyway. It really is. So I think there's, the groundwork's been laid by everybody. So now we've just got to sit back and say, right, okay, this is how we're going to do it. come in. You'll enjoy it and it will be good. I don't know, but I'm out of my depth. Well and truly out of my depth for that one. I knew nothing about catering. Knew absolutely nothing about catering. The fire service was it. That was all I knew. Which was another reason with the COVID closing down was why I went back into the fire service. So we weren't expecting to be reopened, but hey ho, I've got to run the two together now. How did I get here? We had a property up the road. We came up here every 5 or 6 weeks, absolutely loved it. Came up for a holiday when the cottage was empty for 3 weeks and just didn't want to go home. And when you got back down onto that M11, you looked at London and you saw all the smog and everything, and you turned left onto the M25 and parked the car for a few hours. We thought, you know what, let's see what we can find. And at the time, the Wensleydale Railway had this empty room which they were desperately trying to get used. So we came up and said, look, we're going to jack everything in London and we'll give it a good crack. And with Tracy being in catering the way she's in catering, the knowledge that she has about everything, and you know the experience and the determination to make everything so good, it was just a no-brainer. Let's do it.
I'm still fumbling around all over the place. I'm like a dinosaur trying to tiptoe through an ant farm. With me, it just doesn't work. But Tracy keeps us all intact. Keeps everything in line. Cracks a whip, if you like.
Teresa Chapman, finance manager and possibly admin assistant for the last year. Actually, somebody asked me this the other day and it's coming up 5 years. Yeah. It was all right. I quite enjoyed actually still coming to work. You know, I still had to get up in the morning, go to work. So that was good. It was pressurised at times, but it always felt all right. You know, I got through it. It was a learning curve because all of a sudden you have no one to refer to, so you've got to find it. But fortunately, because I've been here a while, I did know who I could ring to get answers for things. So but it was all right. Yeah. Yeah, I suppose I've done a lot of things in the last year that I didn't normally do. The grant situation is cumbersome in a lot of ways. You know, making sure you've scanned everything, photocopied everything, sent it to the right people. Also quite frustrating trying to apply for grants from the local councils, which we haven't been successful in, for the Hambleton area anyway. Richmond were good for Labour, but yeah, there's always more work to do to get a grant. You have a lot of background work to do. Both. I think it's quite frightening how you did something on a daily basis prior to lockdown, and now I haven't done it for a year. And then when you look at it again, and you think, what did I used to do? Yeah, it's incredible that you're so busy every day. Unless you're doing things on a regular basis, you almost have to start again. Could be an age problem as well, like. But there will be a lot of work to do because of the new EPOS system. Everything's new. The building's new. Everything we're going to do is new. There'll be a new buffet, a new shop. So really everything is starting from scratch. So there will be a lot of training to do. And a lot of just working through things. We have a lot of systems to set up. Oh yes, I can't wait for Polar Express. I think it was such a big success the year we had it. So if we'd had Polar Express last year, the railway would be in a different place. We all know why it didn't happen, it just couldn't happen. I think it's one of the best things that the railway has had the offer of doing, and the consistency of having that for the next 4 or 5 years is something we can really get our teeth into. I do obviously enjoy a challenge. I don't think I always knew that was how I operated, but I think I do enjoy a challenge. And there's certainly plenty of them at the railway. I think it's marvellous working in the same room as Chris. My insight into a lot of things has grown enormously, things that just weren't on the radar. So I think that is really good, and that's probably a learning curve for the whole of the railway to talk more. You know, but it's difficult when you've got volunteers that have certain hours, not very many staff, you know, so you're all trying to wear 10 hats at once. And it is lovely working here and seeing so many people, but of course it stops you concentrating on what you're doing, and so you have to keep starting the job again, you know, because you chat to people or you have people to see. But actually I like the variety. So. I would hope so, because personally I don't mind Zoom. It is nice to look somebody in the eye every now and again for a meeting, and I do think that we will go back to having meetings face to face, but a lot of meetings can be done by Zoom now, and it does save people having to travel, doesn't it? So, but as long as there is a face to face every now and again, I think that's greatly appreciated by people.
Thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed our look at Wensleydale Railway and the people, places and things that make us tick. There'll be another one next month. Share the word, visit the website, come and support us. Take care now.